Ever wonder why certain truths never seem to reach you? Why the most critical information about your spiritual life is hidden or brushed aside? That's no coincidence. What if I told you that what you're about to discover in this video is so powerful, the forces of darkness have tried to bury it time and time again? Yes, it's that serious. The devil himself doesn't want you to hear this, because once you know the truth, once you really understand what's going on behind the scenes, you might never go back to your old ways again. There's a battle going on, one you may not even realize you're a part of. You've been misled, and the time has come to expose the reality for what it is. What you're doing now, what you think is harmless, has deeper, more sinister roots than you've been told. This isn't just a casual warning, it's a wake-up call. The very act you think is no big deal is actually one of the devil's most effective tools. And trust me, once you see it for what it truly is, you'll understand why they don't want you watching this video. Buckle up, because after this, things are going to change. Masturbation might seem like a harmless habit to some, but when viewed from a spiritual lens, it can create serious obstacles in one's connection with God. It isn't just a physical act, it has a ripple effect on your spirit. The more you indulge, the more it pulls you away from a pure and intimate relationship with the divine. Picture it as a fog that slowly clouds your vision, making it harder to see the path you're supposed to follow. And often, this distance creeps in without notice until the connection is almost lost. This act also invites feelings of guilt, regret, and even shame, which further deepens the gap between you and God. Imagine a phone call where the line keeps cutting out. Masturbation interrupts that clear communication, making you feel disconnected. Each time you give in to the urge, it chips away at the foundation of your spirituality. It's as if you're building a wall, brick by brick, between yourself and your faith, making it harder to seek forgiveness and feel divine presence. What most people don't realize is that masturbation doesn't just stay in the realm of the physical. It seeps into your thoughts, your emotions, and even how you view yourself. You may begin to feel unworthy or that you're not holy enough to seek God's guidance. These feelings are exactly what opens the door to spiritual stagnation. The more these thoughts grow, the more you find yourself trapped in a cycle that distances you further from spiritual purity. Now, some might argue that masturbation is a stress reliever or a way to cope with daily life's pressures. But here's the kicker. This relief is only temporary, and the spiritual consequences last much longer. Think of it like a quick snack when you're hungry. It satisfies you for a moment, but it doesn't nourish your body in the long run. Spiritually, this act leaves you feeling empty, leading to frustration, a lack of peace, and eventually, a sense of alienation from your core values. One practical way to avoid this spiritual pitfall is by engaging in habits that uplift your spirit. For instance, meditating on scripture, such as 1 Corinthians 6:18, which speaks on the importance of fleeing from sexual immorality, can serve as a powerful reminder of how your body is a temple. Daily practices like these keep you grounded and focused on what really matters, your spiritual growth. It's not about perfection, but progression, little by little, toward a closer relationship with God. The real danger lies in how masturbation can subtly become a stronghold. It may start as something small, but over time, it becomes a habit that's difficult to break. Like a small leak in a dam, it might not seem like much at first, but left unchecked, it can cause the whole structure to collapse. In the same way, this habit eats away at your spiritual defenses, leaving you vulnerable to other negative influences. It's crucial to recognize this early and take the necessary steps to stop it. Spiritual growth requires discipline, and that means understanding what weakens you. Masturbation weakens your resolve, your self-control, and your dedication to staying pure in the eyes of God. And when you're spiritually weak, other areas of your life begin to crumble. Think about it. When your faith is strong, it reflects in how you interact with others, how you handle challenges, and even how you view yourself. Masturbation chips away at that strength, slowly unraveling your spiritual foundation. A helpful strategy is to identify triggers and work to replace them with healthier actions. If boredom or loneliness leads to the urge, replace it with something productive: exercise, prayer, or even journaling. Sometimes, the act of writing down your thoughts can help you process what you're feeling and find a healthier outlet. When you start focusing on the spiritual dangers of masturbation, it becomes clearer that small changes in your daily routine can have a big impact on your overall spiritual health. And let's not forget, the act of masturbation isn't just about what you do physically. It's about where your heart and mind are during and after. Are you indulging in thoughts that don't align with your spiritual values? These impure thoughts create an internal environment where temptation thrives. You might think it's just a one-time thing, but each act lowers your defenses, making it easier to fall into sin again. Recognizing the spiritual consequences is the first step to breaking free. So, while some see this as a personal matter, it's crucial to understand that it's much more than that. Masturbation affects the very core of your spiritual journey, drawing you further away from the peace and fulfillment that comes from being close to God. When you focus on avoiding these dangers, you open the door to deeper spiritual growth, a clearer sense of purpose, and ultimately, a stronger connection with God. When someone is emotionally or spiritually vulnerable, they may not realize it, but they become more susceptible to negative influences. It's like leaving the front door of your house unlocked. Anything can slip in unnoticed. The same applies to the spiritual realm. Masturbation, when linked to feelings of loneliness, frustration, or emotional turmoil, can open the door for malign entities to take advantage. These forces often prey on our moments of weakness, amplifying thoughts and desires that steer us further from purity. These entities feed off the chaos that vulnerability creates, twisting it into something much darker. Have you ever noticed how, when you're feeling down, it's easier to fall into bad habits? That's not a coincidence. When you're spiritually weak, these influences push you toward actions that provide temporary pleasure but long-term harm. Masturbation becomes a tool they use to lure you deeper into a cycle of guilt, shame, and isolation from God. It's a slippery slope, and the more you indulge, the more these entities gain control over your thoughts and actions. The isolation felt by single individuals, in particular, can be a breeding ground for this kind of influence. Without the support of a partner, some may turn to masturbation as a way to cope with feelings of loneliness, but what feels like a quick fix is actually making them more vulnerable. The spiritual loneliness they experience makes it easier for malign entities to creep in, leading to impure thoughts and actions that only deepen their sense of isolation. It's like a never-ending loop, one that keeps you stuck in a place of spiritual weakness. Consider it like an uninvited guest overstaying their welcome. At first, it may seem like they're harmless, but slowly, they begin to rearrange your spiritual furniture, making it harder to feel at peace. These entities thrive on vulnerability, and once they find an entry point, they don't easily leave. This is why maintaining spiritual discipline and emotional health is crucial. The less room you leave for vulnerability, the less control these negative influences have over your life. One way to fortify your spiritual defenses is by building strong emotional boundaries. If you're feeling lonely or vulnerable, turn to activities that reinforce your connection to God, like prayer, meditation, or even community service. Surround yourself with positive influences, friends, family, or a faith community that uplifts you. By doing this, you reduce the chance for malign entities to exploit your vulnerabilities. It's not just about avoiding masturbation, it's about creating a spiritual environment where purity can flourish. Masturbation is often seen as a personal battle, but it's essential to recognize the spiritual dimensions at play. You're not just battling yourself, you're resisting external forces that feed off your weaknesses. These entities are opportunists, and they strike when your defenses are low. The more aware you are of their tactics, the better prepared you are to resist them. It's like being in a spiritual battlefield. If you're not equipped with the right armor, you'll be an easy target. A practical tip for guarding against these influences is to practice mindfulness in your daily life. Pay attention to the moments when you feel most vulnerable, when you're tired, stressed, or emotionally drained. Instead of giving in to temptation, find healthy ways to recharge spiritually. It could be as simple as taking a walk, reading an inspirational book, or spending time in nature. Small, conscious actions like these reinforce your spiritual armor and keep negative entities at bay. It's also important to acknowledge that spiritual warfare is real. When you're engaged in practices like masturbation, you're not just engaging in a physical act, you're opening the door to negative spiritual consequences. These malign entities know how to exploit your emotional and spiritual vulnerabilities, and they'll use any opportunity to create distance between you and God. By recognizing this, you can take proactive steps to close those doors and reclaim your spiritual strength. The goal isn't just to avoid negative influences, It's to build a life where those influences have no power over you. By staying grounded in your faith, surrounding yourself with positive people, and practicing daily spiritual discipline, you can resist the pull of malign entities. Remember, vulnerability isn't a weakness if you know how to guard it. It's an opportunity to strengthen your spiritual resilience, making it harder for any force to come between you and your path to purity. While many see masturbation as a simple act of physical relief, the truth is that its consequences go far beyond the physical. The temporary satisfaction it offers comes at the cost of spiritual well-being. It's like a hidden tax that keeps accumulating over time, and eventually, the bill comes due. The guilt, shame, and emotional turmoil that follow often outweigh any momentary relief. These feelings create a sense of separation from God, leading to a spiritual emptiness that's hard to shake. The emotional baggage that comes with masturbation is often overlooked. Sure, it may feel like a stress reliever in the moment, but afterward, the weight of guilt can become overwhelming. It's as if you've taken 2 steps back in your spiritual journey, distancing yourself further from the purity and peace that God offers. This emotional toll leads to a cycle where the act is repeated, not for pleasure, but as an attempt to cope with the guilt it causes. It's a vicious cycle that leaves one feeling spiritually bankrupt. Shame plays a big role here, too. After the act, many people are left feeling dirty, unworthy, or even hypocritical, especially if they've committed themselves to a path of spiritual growth. It's as if you're trying to climb a ladder toward heaven, but every time you engage in masturbation, you slip down a few rungs. The sense of shame isn't just self-imposed. It's a barrier that blocks your ability to connect with God, and the more shame builds, the harder it is to seek forgiveness and start fresh. Imagine trying to build a relationship with someone while carrying a load of unspoken guilt. That's what masturbation does to your relationship with God. It's hard to approach Him with an open heart when you're weighed down by feelings of failure. This guilt turns into a wall that blocks divine communication. No matter how much you pray or seek comfort, it feels like you're speaking into a void, because deep down, the guilt is what's holding you back. One practical way to break free from this cycle is to acknowledge the harm it's causing, not just physically but emotionally and spiritually. Once you recognize that it's creating more harm than good, it becomes easier to take steps to stop. You can start by keeping a journal of your feelings before and after the act. This simple exercise helps you see the patterns of guilt and shame more clearly, giving you the awareness needed to make a change. It's like shining a light on a hidden problem. Once you see it, you can't ignore it anymore. There's also the issue of how masturbation affects your sense of self-worth. Over time, it can lead to feelings of inadequacy, as if you're not strong enough to resist temptation. This belief weakens your confidence in other areas of life, making you more vulnerable to other negative behaviors. It's a domino effect. One bad habit leads to another, and soon, you find yourself in a place where you feel disconnected not only from God but from yourself as well. Rebuilding that sense of worth takes time, but it's crucial for spiritual growth. The consequences of masturbation also extend into relationships. It's not uncommon for individuals to feel emotionally distant from their partners, or even avoid intimacy altogether because of the shame they carry. This creates a ripple effect, where personal guilt affects how you interact with others. You might pull away, avoid meaningful conversations, or feel too ashamed to express your true feelings. The act of masturbation becomes more than just a private issue. It affects your ability to form deep, meaningful connections. This is why it's important to see masturbation as more than a physical act. The spiritual and emotional harm it causes goes unnoticed for too long. But once you become aware of it, the damage is undeniable. It's not just about resisting a physical urge. It's about protecting your emotional and spiritual well-being. Each time you choose not to engage, you're reclaiming your sense of worth and strengthening your relationship with God. So, while some might argue that masturbation is just about stress relief, the spiritual and emotional toll is far more significant. Recognizing the harm beyond the physical is the first step toward healing. Once you understand this, you can start rebuilding your spiritual life, piece by piece, with renewed strength and purpose. The key is to focus not just on what you're avoiding, but on the spiritual freedom and peace you're gaining in the process. Sexual purity is a concept deeply rooted in spiritual teachings, and it holds a significant place in a believer's life. It's not just about refraining from physical acts like masturbation, but it's about cultivating a heart and mind that remain pure and focused on God's path. The Bible emphasizes sexual purity as a way to honor the sanctity of marriage and intimacy. When individuals maintain purity, they're not only respecting themselves but also preserving their future relationships from the baggage of past actions. It's a commitment to live with integrity, inside and out. In a world where sexual freedom is often glorified, it can feel countercultural to pursue purity. But it's this very pursuit that sets believers apart, making them a light in a world filled with moral confusion. Sexual purity isn't about denying pleasure. It's about protecting the sacredness of sex as something that belongs within the covenant of marriage. When you guard your purity, you're essentially building a fortress around your heart, ensuring that the love you give and receive in marriage is as pure as it was intended to be. One of the key reasons why sexual purity is so important is because it impacts how you relate to others. When you engage in sexual impurity, whether through masturbation or other acts, it clouds your judgment and can distort your view of relationships. You start seeing people as objects of desire rather than as souls to connect with on a deeper and spiritual level. By maintaining purity, you're able to interact with others from a place of respect and love rather than lust. It creates a foundation of trust and mutual respect in all relationships, not just romantic ones. The Bible speaks clearly on the importance of purity, especially in verses like 1 Thessalonians 4:3-5, where believers are called to abstain from sexual immorality and control their bodies in a way that is holy and honorable. This isn't about following rules for the sake of it. It's about aligning your actions with God's design for your life. Purity leads to freedom, freedom from guilt, shame, and the negative spiritual consequences that come with impurity. It's about living in a way that reflects the dignity and respect that God has for each of us. One practical step to maintain sexual purity is by setting clear boundaries. This might mean avoiding situations where temptation is strong, like being alone for long periods with a phone or computer. Another powerful strategy is to fill your mind with positive, uplifting content that keeps your thoughts aligned with purity. Instead of feeding your mind with images or ideas that lead to impurity, focus on scripture, personal development books, or even hobbies that bring you joy and fulfillment. These small actions can make a huge difference in staying on the path of purity. Sexual purity is also vital for emotional and mental clarity. When your mind is cluttered with lustful thoughts or guilt from impure actions, it's hard to focus on what really matters in life: your goals, your relationships, and your spiritual growth. Purity allows you to have a clear mind, free from distractions, so you can pursue your calling with full force. It's like cleaning a dirty window. Once it's clear, you can see the world in a whole new light, and that clarity allows you to make better choices. Another practical way to cultivate purity is by being accountable to someone you trust. Whether it's a friend, mentor, or spiritual leader, having someone to talk to about your struggles can help keep you on track. Sometimes, the simple act of voicing your challenges can weaken the power those temptations hold over you. It's important to remember that no one is perfect, and seeking help when you need it doesn't make you weak. It makes you wise. Surround yourself with people who support your journey toward purity and encourage you to stay strong. Maintaining sexual purity isn't just about avoiding sin. It's about actively pursuing a lifestyle that honors God. This means making choices that reflect your commitment to holiness in every area of your life. Whether it's what you watch, who you spend time with, or how you spend your free time, every decision contributes to your spiritual purity. When you start viewing purity as a holistic lifestyle rather than just a set of rules, it becomes easier to make choices that align with your values. Choosing purity in a world that promotes the opposite is undoubtedly challenging, but the rewards are worth it. Not only does it deepen your relationship with God, but it also sets you up for healthier, more fulfilling relationships in the future. Sexual purity is about more than just avoiding mistakes. It's about embracing the life God has called you to live, one that's free from the burdens of guilt, shame, and regret. And when you live with that kind of freedom, every aspect of your life flourishes. Now that you know the truth, what will you do with it? The knowledge you've gained isn't just for reflection, it's a call to action. You've seen how the devil uses subtle traps to keep you disconnected from God, but now it's time to take back control. Will you allow these harmful habits to continue ruling over you? Or will you stand firm and reclaim your spiritual purity? Think about how your life could change if you broke free from this cycle. What impact could this have on your relationships, your self-worth, and most importantly, your connection with God. It's time to make a decision. If you're ready to step into the life you were truly meant to live, one free from guilt, shame, and spiritual chains, start today. What's the next step for you? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. What challenges are you facing in your spiritual journey? Let's keep this conversation going because the path to freedom starts with understanding, but it continues with community and action. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you can stay equipped with the knowledge that will keep you spiritually strong. There's more to uncover, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Together, we'll continue this journey toward truth and spiritual victory.